Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4 Last Days of Europe with me, Alpha Pi Omega and Gross Germanisches Reich. So I want to start this episode by addressing some of the comments that you left on my videos, because as you know I try to address all of them, but some of them really weren't being mentioned in the next or follow-up episodes. And one of them, for example, is made by Zuzzle356, who caught me with my pants down, claiming that the age of Hitler is in the description of the character in-game, which I was 100% sure that we read, but we obviously didn't. So let's rectify that now and start with it. So how does one begin to define Adolf Hitler, Führer and Reichskanzler of the Greater Germanic Reich, the undisputed tyrant of 19 countries, the architect of Welthauptstadt Germania? I still don't know how to pronounce it. If they would say Germania, I would think Germania. Supreme Commander of the Wehrmacht, Führer of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, and Time Magazine's Man of the Year in 1948, 1946 and 1961. Oh, a little bit of flavor there. A man of humble beginnings, the son of Austrian innkeepers, he was educated in Munich and Vienna and served with distinction with the German army during the First World War. Actually, a little bit of tidbit, Hitler actually hated the Austrian army. He thought it was too weak to serve the needs of the German people, and that's why he joined the Kaiser's army. And second thing I was kind of surprised by, he served as a runner. That never got mentioned before until I dig it up. So he served as a runner, which was a very dangerous position, but also one that merited him quite a lot of extra benefits. His rise to power was meteoric, none can deny, and even failed attempts like the Beer Hall Putsch served only to further his ambitions. His combination of violence and showmanship drove the communists and Democrats out of the Reichstag and placed him into the highest office. Under his leadership, Germany broke the chain of the Versailles Treaty, developed a terrifying new military, and forced the other nations of Europe to their knees until the swastika flew over all of Europe. From the shores of the Atlantic Ocean to the Baltic Sea, under his guidance, the Reich built wonders such as Germania, and under his watchful eye, the undesirables of Europe were viciously exterminated and fed to the flames. But the lord and master of all Germany, of all Europe, between the Urals and the Pyrenees, has grown old. Where his voice could once command a crowd's rapt attention, there is now only quiet rasping, and a cold, calculating mind of steel has gone to rust. The hands that panned Mein Kampf constantly tremble now, and he adds the final touches to a watercolor of those long dead faces slipping from his memory. The greatest conqueror of the world has ever known since Alexander and Napoleon is an old and frail man. In 1962, he is 73 years of age, and some dare to whisper that he is not long for this world. The fear of all the world is that once the Führer's funeral pyre is lit, it will spread the greatest conflagration of war all across Europe once more. What a sad tale. I mean, growing so decrepit and old at 73 is a sad tale. Not that I would be any fan of this man, but, the way they portrayed him here is just a sad tale. Anyway, Wolfau 5 also mentioned that he would be 73 here, so he was right because Hitler was born in 1889. Thank you for that. And Wolfau also mentioned that he helped me actually with the per capita calculation because he reminded me of that. So what I found out is right now the Gross Germanisches Reich has about one half of the GDP per capita that United States had historically. They had about $3,200 at this time with the actual, in time, not adjusted for inflation or anything, value, which I believe it is how it's here. So we get roughly 1,750. So as United States have around 3,300, that's about half. But it's still slightly more than Soviet Union had at this time. So we're not doing all that bad. It's not like the land of the poor, but it's definitely not a land of the wealthy. Okay, and I think that might be all. Let me just check if there was anything else. Nope, that's actually it. Sorry for the screen shaking like that. I had to tab out to the second screen where I have the YouTube comments. Actually, I wanted to mention some people mentioned that I'm playing on a too high a difficulty, so hopefully not. We're gonna see. And Connoisseur 8197 had an interesting point that some of the characters in the game are a bit of a caricature, if I understand him correctly. So we'll see how well we'll feel about that. Okay, anyway, when we started to have extra production lines here. No, we don't, so this is also broken. And we're going to continue. One thing actually that I wanted to mention is that people told me that I should immediately start taking things like diverting infantry equipment and strategic fort building. From this description, it would seem that the first thing we should really do is get our influence as high as possible and then spend whatever we feel like it. So that's how I'm going to go for it. I don't see any timer on these. What I see a timer though on is the increasing the legitimacy of our opponents, which is not great. At dinner, an argument, an idea. Göring was picking at his dinner at Carrion Hall. He should have been satisfied. The food was terrific, Emma was beautiful as always, and well, those priceless paintings had not yet lost their glamour. Given how many he had collected since the war, he really should have been enjoying himself, if not for his guests. Actually, this is kind of funny because Göring's art collection was mentioned even in Black Ice, and it's such a... I would go as far as to say it's a meme right now because he was really the thief of Europe. What we need is conquest. The thing that made us the masters of Europe in the first place. Day by day, our grasp on Europe grows ever more tenuous, and I shudder to think of what might happen once our great Führer dies. That was at last what Otto Ernst Rammer. Oh, how Göring detested the angry little man. Göring knew that he was one of the key architects for the suicidal war plans. Well, I can tell you with great certainty that the last few decades of stewardship under our great Führer have reaped nothing but dividends. I mean, we were the first to get a man on the moon. I think there are still some years left yet in our Third Reich. After all, we are not yet even close to the 1,000 years. Am I not right, Reichsmarshal Göring? Wilhelm Stuckert was a long-time friend, supporter, and ardent National Socialist. As far as he knew, Europe was theirs, and the future of the Reich was no longer about further conquest. Well, Göring looked at Schörner's lackey before returning his gaze towards Wilhelm Stuckart. Before he had a chance to answer, the militarist interrupted him and condemned the weak-willed bureaucrats for the anemic economy. Stuckart, of course, did not take it sitting down and leapt up in indignation to begin what would be a shouting match between him and the ardent Schörnerite. Göring excused himself from the meal to no one's notice. It would have been a waste to sign away his great popularity with the likes of Schörner and his band of merry madmen. No destiny waited. Surely the successor would be rather eager to enlist the help of none other than Hermann Göring himself. Yes, there was much work to be done, as soon as he could calm the two idiots down enough to finish dinner. Get sent an invitation to the reformer. This is actually one thing that I think the world of Weissmod has done really well, because it is a historical fact that basically Germany fueled its expansion by exploiting the nations that it conquered. And I really like the fact, and I missed this in Black Ice, I wish that mechanic was there as well, where the more pro-military you are, the worse your economy gets. They had this in, as I mentioned, World of Boys. You actually saw that mod on my channel, where they have these, counter, which actually shows the state of your economy. And the further you push it, the further you mobilize, the further you raise the people into arms, the worse your economy is, and you can only satiate that by exploiting the nations around you. So the fact that Germany got into such a huge issues with its economy is not surprising, and actually kind of something that I would expect to happen. Agent Kleiner Fuchs. Among the many agencies dedicated to rooting out any danger to the Reich's integrity and continued supremacy, none holds so much power as the Abwehr. At the top of such a large and convoluted agency, with tendrils digging deep into all offices and bureaus of the equally large German administration, a single man sits uncontested. His power is enough that he can order death without having to ask for permission, and even the SS must tread carefully within his reach. Reinhard Gehlen, better known as Agent Kleiner Fuchs, is a secretive man, a quality that goes well with his role. Had it not been so, he would have long since been dead. With cunning and skill, Gehlen rose through the ranks of the Abwehr, making important allies and equally important enemies, but no friends. It's difficult being friends with someone who holds enough evidence against you to send you to the concentration camp for the rest of your life. Among the countless agents working under him, one stands out, one he has taken the slightest bit of attachment for, Gerhard Wessel, known in the field as Agent Verflitzes Kätzchen. Verflitzes? I don't know what Verflitzes means, but Kätzchen is a kitty, if I read this correctly, is a capable officer hailing from the Wehrmacht and has been Gehlen's protégé for almost a decade. Ever since he discovered his ability with analyzing large amounts of complex data and quickly devising plans and countermeasures, while not the best field agent, something which Gehlen tries every day to change, Wessel possesses both competence and loyalty, a rare combination of qualities these days. In a world of shadows, the one who rules over them is in charge, and in the Reich all shadows, be they large or slim, grey or pitch black, swear their allegiances to Agent Kleiner Fuchs. Oh, Kleiner Fuchs, that would be a little smaller fox, right? If I'm gonna... Damn! Please, my German viewers, correct me. Kleiner Fuchs would be the smaller fox, and what the hell is Verflitzes Kätzchen? I don't know I ever heard Verfilztes Kätzchen. I even mispronounced it horrifyingly. So I don't know what this one means. Always use your cover names, it will save you. Verflitzes Kätzchen. Interesting. Anyway, how's our economy doing? We still got a huge surplus of 1.3% GDP in the real GDP growth. Yeah, our debt is dropping significantly. Okay, so while we're doing good, I think we can just keeping it as it is. The administrative expenditures, that's actually... Where is it? There was a way how you... Oh, here it is. Let's check out the administrative. So we're funding security, pollution, bureaucracy, and safety. I think we might actually go a bit higher with the bureaucracy funding. I would like to increase the stability of the Reich. So this gives us 18% extra. I don't think that's gonna hurt our income or growth by much, but it's gonna increase the stability of the of our beautiful area. Why are you still claiming that we have lost? We haven't. Oh, this is weird. An invitation to the reformer. Dear Reichsminister Speer, as a Reichsmarschall, I must congratulate you on becoming the chosen successor of our Greater Germanic Reich. To celebrate this historic moment, I wish to extend a cordial invitation to a dinner at Karin-Hall. I have been told that you are a man of expensive taste, and on that front I believe that Karin-Hall is second to none. I have also heard that you are a man of many ideas and reforms, one who wishes to bring the Reich to new heights. Although my past exploits were of the military kind, one thing I have learned in my time as a politician is this: one can never have too many men to keep the peace when less imaginative minds wish to keep things the way they were. For such fiends, I can only recommend the bayonet. Oh god. I understand that your gang of 4 would be your main advisors, but perhaps there is room for one more. My popular support and military prowess would no doubt shore up further support for your cause, and there is no other government that I would rather serve under than yours. Sincerely, Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring. So maybe we can get a nice little connection with him? We'll see. In remembrance of our hero... Oh, this is about Goebbels. I wonder what happened to him actually. I completely missed that. I just noticed that he was dead. Today, as it does every year on this most sorrowful of days, the Reich mourns the death of one of its most compassionate creative visionaries in film and media, Paul Joseph Goebbels. In the summer of 1956, our most beloved of directors and pioneers of the National Socialist Revolution has met his end in the untamed wilderness of the eastern frontier, Breslau, specifically while on his way to visit his close compatriot, Wolf Heinrich Helldorf. Since then, there has been a hole in the heart of any German film critic, or really any sensible one across the Reich, as well as any well-meaning National Socialist. So what the hell happened to him? Met his end in the untamed wilderness of the eastern frontier, Breslau. Does that sound... he was either assassinated or had a car crash or something. This year's services were no different than the years past, with some words from the Führer in memory of his old friend, followed by words from several of his closest friends and confidants. Albert Speer spoke to the man's level-headedness in times of panic, while figures such as Hermann Göring spoke of his fiery passion for National Socialism. Between all those making statements of their old friend, however, none spoke more passionately of the man and his rhetoric than Wolf Heinrich Helldorf, an unknown in the political scene of the party, though certainly a passionate National Socialist. Featuring several battalions worth of honor guards as part of the service, and several hours worth of eulogies and shared memories, the service finally came to an end. With tensions beginning to boil within German politics, the service has been a strong reminder for the people of the Reich as to just how short life can be. Even still, perhaps it is too late for such a lesson. The Reich mourns, but for how long? Sorry, I have to sip on my tea here. A lot of talking and reading. Gang of 4 or room for more? Albert Speer thought it amusing how informal and relaxed the letter was after reading and rereading it. The letter barely seemed the type of correspondence that could have had far-reaching consequences on the Reich. Speer was to inherit and manage going forward. For a moment it was tempting. Göring was a media darling, and also someone who would no doubt move a lot of fence-sitters towards his side, but everything else about him would be more trouble than he was worth. Primarily his very nature would create an imbalance in the already fragile Gang of 4. His old saber-rattling reputation would put him at odds with Schmidt, and his terrible economic ideas would no doubt butt heads with Erhard. Göring was a man who enjoyed the spotlight and would probably try to steal it from old silver-tongued Kiesinger and, well, Treschow. Herr Speer, Treschow is waiting in the lobby to see you. Am I reading Treschow? Yeah. Speak of the devil. Oh, send him in, please. Thank you. Speer had made up his mind by now. Treschow would be the one to handle this. Göring and Treschow were never amicable in the first place. Perhaps Schörner would enjoy knowing about this also. Of course, the details could all be handled in due time. When Treschow opened the door, he was surprised that Speer had been standing up and waiting for him, seeming more animated than his usual self. For once, perhaps, they may yet agree upon something. A pity. I would have enjoyed a visit to Karin Hall. Ah, okay, well, there goes our chance of making friends. So embracing the students is going to happen next. It's going to give us further political power. I think that was one of the things you mentioned in the comments, that we really need to increase the amount of political power we're gaining, because this one has been the most gutted by the increase in difficulty. And the game is really sort of railroaded in some areas. So we cannot change the ministers, so there's nothing we can do with Göring. I increase the stability a bit. Healthcare policy, education policy, okay. Is there a way how we could increase research speed? Facilities funding, research policies, research speed, nope. No. Social expenditures, maybe? Yeah, healthcare and education funding. Let me see what we can do here. So if we increase the both, okay, we would get to a small deficit, but the GDP growth would increase as well. Okay, let's see, we can keep it like this for a bit. That should help with education and healthcare. So let's see what it's gonna do. We can always revert back on it. 1.27 per day. That did nothing at all. That did absolutely nothing. Okay, well then, I'm gonna leave it for a bit and then we're gonna reassess it. Assassination attempt at Edward VIII. In a stunning news today, the King of England, Edward VIII, has had a narrow escape from assassination during a speech he was performing outside Buckingham Palace. The assassin, believed to be a radical member of the organization HMMLR, attempted to throw a grenade at the monarch in the middle of the speech. Wow, that's going a bit overboard, isn't it? And was only stopped by the fact that their device landed amidst members of the government standing behind the king, shielding him from its wrath. So basically, instead of the king, he killed a number of government officials. This is a public representation of the instability many have long believed hides behind the facade or facade. Is it facade or facade? Of civility in modern England. Apparently God was fond of the king this day. Can we see what their stability is? No, I don't think so. Do we have a complete intel? Factories used for trade. Nope, I guess total navy intel. I guess we can't see it. What, maybe there? No, I don't see it. Again, this the redrawn of the UI is a bit tricky for me. Göring at Curran Hall. Göring strolled out of his office with a sigh. His gambit had failed. He was wedded to the militarists for now. The letter of the successor was leaked, and the letter to the successor was leaked, and Schörner came calling about his betrayal. Göring had lied to him. The Conservatives had sent the letter without his knowledge and set up the meeting. By a stroke of luck, Schörner believed him, but Göring knew that Naumann wouldn't. It wasn't as if he didn't try, explaining to the Reichsminister how the militarists had done that on his behalf. After all they'd been through, Göring had thought there would have been some quotable last words on either side, but Naumann didn't even manage to finish his sentence before hanging up on Göring in exasperation and disbelief. In one phone call, his conservative support had died. As he strolled through Curran Hall's art section, one painting caught his eye. It was one of Napoleon. He was sinking into his chair, defeated. There was no commanding gaze, no passionate look. It was a blank stare towards nothingness. Well, I know what picture he means, or painting. Initially, it was there as a matter of pride. Nowadays, who, after all, was the master of Europe? The Führer was not French, let alone one called Napoleon. However, now Göring looked at the painting with a new sense of empathy. If Schörner and his war plans were successful, then he would no doubt go down in history as one greater than Napoleon. But Göring knew deep down he was no Napoleon. Even with the greatness of the Reich, the later war plans would be near impossible to achieve. On that day, when his armies falter and his people groan, he wondered if someone would ever make a painting of him. Lies, failure, and disappointment. And Laureano Gomez dies. Surprising news from Bogota. As the leader of the central government in Colombia, President Laureano Gomez Castro abruptly passed away after suffering a stroke inside his office in the presidential palace. Shortly after his death, Vice President Roberto Urdaneta took over the leadership of the government. Gomez rose to power after overthrowing previous interim president Gabriel Turbay, denouncing his use of the emergency powers and making promises to preserve democracy in Colombia. But soon after taking over, he would break his promises by ordering the murder of all suspected to be opposed to him and smuggling weapons to the New Granada insurgents. While many across the world have celebrated the president's demise, ultra-conservatives in Latin America, members of the Italian, Iberian and Japanese spheres have already sent their thoughts and prayers to the central government. So Colombia, what's going on? Oh! Okay, so Colombia is no, it's not at war, but it's fractured. Okay, so Colombia is spread between Republic of Colombia, Colombian Revolutionary Union, which is left-wing populism, so that's communists. This is aristocratic conservatism, and New Granada is fascist. War support, yeah. Army of Saints and Sinners, reaction and then agrarian crisis. Interesting. That's a hotbed for international involvement. So, we finished embracing the students. Given the federal appointment of Rice Minister Albert Speer as successor, it's only natural that we should attempt to pursue a more friendly policy towards the students' protesters. Perhaps by wholeheartedly embracing the student movement, it'll perhaps halt the increasingly violent protests that continuously disrupt our major cities. If not, at least it would show that the Führer is a pragmatist, which may endear us to the students. So we gain 5 extra legitimacy. Fascism becomes more popular by 5% and get 30% political power, and increases minimal investment in social funding. Okay, so what's next? Appeal to the Reichstag. Okay, that's gonna give us a political power, so I want that one. And so our influence is 20, Goering has 20, and Bormann has 30, so we need to get to the first place as soon as possible. So wait, let's investigate the situation in Colombia a bit more. How did New Granada come to be? It is a common joke outside of New Granada that Alzate Avedano was compared to Mussolini so many times that he decided to become Colombia's very own Mussolini. But as far as the population of New Granada is concerned, Alzate is El Duce, who will drive out the godless Gaitanistas and deceitful Democrats to bring a prosperous and holy order to the lands once governed by Simón Bolívar. Born in Manizales, Alzate became an oligarch's lawyer and joined the conservatives just as Laureano Gomez swung it further and further to the right. A good friend of Gomez, Alzate became a member of the Leopards. Leopards, huh? Conservatives who preached fascism as Colombia's saving grace. As the fascist powers conquered Europe, their dissident wing of the party grew stronger until it became mainstream, obsessed with the strength of Mussolini and Hitler states. The one figure stopping their march was the anti-fascist caudillo, President Gaitan. With Gaitan now dead, El Duce marched, uniting all conservative paramilitaries under him. Alzate and his black shirts sowed terror, from slaughtering villages to bringing Kristallnacht to Bogota, and founded New Granada to extend that terror to all of Colombia. Just like the late Duce he emulates, Alzate possesses a ferocious spirit and aims to have his will unopposed, no matter the price, no matter the debt that he must put under his throne. Interestingly enough, we have very poor relations with them. Also interesting that they are not at war with each other. Corporationism. They're part of the Italian sphere. Ah. You are part of the Iberian Union and you are part of the American sphere. Okay, so that's how it goes. So were they... Well, okay, they're, you know, they're emulating Il Duce, so Italy. Got it. Okay, so our political power increased slightly by 0.02 per day. Maybe it didn't at all. It was like this. I'm gonna throw it back. I don't think... I mean, the GDP is increasing, so that means our... I mean, what does the healthcare effectiveness does anyway? Can we see it here? Healthcare actual effectiveness, education effective... let's keep it as it is. I mean, having a euro deficit of 0.67 is not bad when our real GDP growth is 1.46. That means that the debt is gonna drop. I'll be happy if we get it sub 100%. That will make me, you know, content enough. And as long as it's not increasing massively, we will be fine. We will be fine. Okay, so I think I'm gonna end the episode here. A lot of interesting information we're getting about the happenings in the Reich. I'm kind of worried though about the Bormann and Heydrich, because the game has been eerily quiet about them. So, well, and also Hitler is in poor health, which is not great. I don't know how much time we actually have. That is disconcerting. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you in the next episode.